Welcome in 49ers faithful. It is your host, Juju Talk Sports, joined by Jose Corral. 49 reasons to listen to right here. We are here to talk about the first week of Niners free agency, and a rather uneventful week is one way I would describe it. Jose, how are you feeling about the early moves?
Yeah, uneventful is a pretty good way to describe it. And the fact that it hasn't been for us, as far as for the Niners, there hasn't been really a big name guy that you would want to pick up. Obviously, we did address some of the issues when it came to the secondary with the pickup of Charvarius Ward of the Kansas City Chiefs. That I was very pleased with. But I mean, other than that, it's been kind of quiet as far as San Francisco goes, which is kind of disappointing because you've seen some of the moves that other teams around the league are making.
Like the Rams.
Like the Rams in our own division. Hell, even the Seahawks made a pretty big move there, trading away.
But they got worse. They got worse.
But they got
different.
Yeah, they got worse. But I mean, at least they're making some kind of moves, right? I mean, the Niners have been so quiet in free agency, trading, just everything to acquire new talent. It hasn't been there with San Francisco. Hey, maybe in the next couple of weeks before the draft, maybe John Lynch has something up his sleeve that he'll surprise us with. I'm hoping. That's what I'm really hoping for.
It kind of reminds me of the old football saying, you're either getting better or getting worse. And I just kind of feel like we're getting worse because we're not really doing anything. Again, you mentioned we're making moves that address some needs. So how can I hate on these moves in principle? Okay, you have an issue with corners. Okay, well, get Charvarius Ward on the first day. You address your corner issue. Well, you have an issue with who's returning your kicks. Okay, let's get Ray McCloud, get him in there, and he should be fine, right? You potentially need a backup safety because Talanoa Hufanga is good, but who knows how good he really can be. All right, let's go get George Odom from Indianapolis. Another defensive lineman here with Hassan Ridgeway, who I've heard kind of has issues with, discipline, laziness. Sometimes like he's not really always amped up on every play. This is really where you're really just hoping that Chris Kaczmarek kind of like works his magic of defensive lineman and gets him going. Ultimately, we just need a Javon Kinlaw to live up to his draft potential. And then guys like Hassan Ridgeway become less important. I would say, putting, tenders on guys like Azeez Al-Shaair, keep him around, keeping around Daniel Brunskill. These are some of the other big moves. But I tell you, I got excited whenever I first heard, okay, we're restructuring Eric Armstead's contract. We're restructuring George Kittle's contract. We're going to have a little bit more money to work with. And then we just kind of like stood still, didn't really do much with it. We even talked about it, and yes, it was somewhat of a joke video, but, punter. Johnny Hecker got released by the Rams, right? Like, you're struggling to have a punter. Listen, you have like one of the best punters available out there. Screw it. Just get him. And I know, unfortunately, this is all going to tie back to Jimmy. And if the offseason is blown, who is going to be the first person that people point to? Jimmy Garoppolo. And, I feel like we have to say this every time, but, we've been pro Jimmy, but at this point, just given the Niners Civil War, I was ready for it to be over, especially when you have a press conference that's basically him saying, goodbye, guys. I'm ready to just go do some Subway commercials. I was ready for the Jimmy Garoppolo era to close. And while I still think that next year this team can compete with Jimmy Garoppolo, I will stand on that hill and potentially die on the hill. I think we could compete next year with Jimmy Garoppolo still in the lineup. I was ready for that transition to start taking place, and mostly because I knew it was also going to come with the added benefit of extra room with the salary cap to play with, to go out there and get like some of these guys, to maybe splurge, get a guy like Allen Robinson, or say, Julio, what you doing? I know you worked with Kyle in the past. Some of these guys are out there. Julio, I joke about. We'll probably do a video on Julio Jones at some point, but either way, just be aggressive, because the Rams are always making moves. They're always so aggressive. And I said it last year when we talked about the Odell Beckham Jr. thing. And yes, Odell got hurt in the Super Bowl, but he was a big part of why they made it to the Super Bowl. Hell, look at the playoff game. Odell, he makes that big catch, and then Jimmy Ward makes it worse by giving him that up high tackle. Odell was making plays all over the field. It wasn't just Cooper Kupp that was killing us. So Odell was a big part of that. And I would have rather him been on our team than being on their team. Sometimes it's not always about also adding to the Niners. Sometimes it's about taking away from the other teams, not allowing the other teams to go get these guys. And I think that that's a big part of this Jenga puzzle, this roster building thing too. It's not just always about having them on your roster. It's about not having them go against you. We talk about why teams don't trade within the division, don't trade within the conference. why Bruce Arians says, yeah, if you want Tom Brady, it's going to cost you 5 first-round picks. It's because you don't want these guys playing against you. And again, OBJ playing against us last year, Allen Robinson, insert him in this year. I just hate seeing these moves consistently. I know it's them going on their stars and scrubs model, but the stars have been able to win it for Los Angeles. Sean McVay has been able to get the most out of his stars, and you just forget about the scrubs. Kyle Shanahan, I feel as though he could do a similar thing because, well, he's as good as Sean McVay in principle. In my mind, he's as good as Sean McVay in principle, but Sean McVay obviously has more pouts on the wall currently as a head coach than Kyle Shanahan does. And that's where I'm at with this free agency. I'm just not enthused about it. I guess I'm enthused actually because it's kind of made me a little bit angry. So it's probably more of an angry enthusiasm towards what we're doing this offseason. I just need something that I could really just sink my teeth into from this free agency class. Like, again, Charvarius Ward is fine. He's a good signing, but I just need something that we can talk about. We could talk about on the show. We need more content. We did not need the Niners to do stuff because we want to make more videos about it.
And one of those big things, like you mentioned, the taking away from a potential division rival, Chandler Jones was a free agent. Like making a move towards Chandler Jones would have been huge. Instead, we restructured Dee Ford's contract, so he's going to be on the team, and hopefully he plays. Hopefully, he gives us more than 2 games a season. But that was a huge opportunity. You mentioned it. The Niners are just not making moves. I'm not too sure if it's hesitancy coming from John Lynch or if he's still debating if he's going to go to television or not. I'm not too sure what's going on with the Niners front office right now. That
just say he's asleep at the wheel.
Sleep at the wheel. That's what it really does seem like. It does seem like he's kind of coasting through free agency, letting some of these key names go by and letting, hell, even our division rivals pick up guys that we could have potentially used. And that's kind of worrying. But at the same time, I'm not going to completely say, oh, this is a terrible offseason just because of that, right? We still have the draft coming up. We still have a couple weeks before the draft comes up. So, and between now and the draft, I think we have to at least do something, whether that be finally finding a home for Jimmy Garoppolo or just straight up announcing that, hey, Jimmy, we're not going to trade Jimmy, an update other than what we got a month ago. That's what I would like when it comes to the Jimmy Garoppolo situation. And as far as signing other guys, there isn't really much guys available left when it comes to big star names, but at least give us something to talk about. You mentioned it, like we need something to say, okay, we're trying to find pieces here.
We need a catchy headline on a video title for you guys to click on. That's what we need. We need 49ers sign Julio Jones, instant reaction. Come on, we got to give that clickbait a little bit. It's just part of the YouTube game, guys. But seriously, I'm also just looking to, like, we're losing guys. It's not just that we're not gaining guys, we're losing guys, because you lose a guy like Laken Tomlinson, who was a Pro Bowler, who's been a stalwart on the 49ers offensive line for the last several years. And meanwhile, you have to go against one of the best interior pass rushers in Aaron Donald on a yearly basis. Yes, he gets the Papa Brunskill treatment, but now that Laken Tomlinson is gone, that's not good. Alex Mack is consistently aging as well. So I don't like doing that. Obviously, Tart's probably gone. K'Wan Williams, we talked about, is probably gone. Guys like Greenlaw, I think Greenlaw has one more year, but we let Raheem Mostert go, which I was mixed on. I was open to the idea of him coming back, as kind of played out. I obviously, we know the big thing with Raheem is really just, can he stay healthy and on the field? The big one is DJ Jones, and DJ, what are you gonna do? We just couldn't pay him. I mean, the Broncos just said, you know what, we're just gonna build up this defensive line. We're going all in. We got Russell Wilson. We have to compete in this insane AFC West now. And that goes with the Raiders too. Obviously, Chandler Jones, have all the money, take all the money. Like, we have to go chase Russell Wilson. We have to go chase Justin Herbert down, and of course Patrick Mahomes. So I don't blame the Raiders for making moves. In fact, the problem is I hear the Raiders are also linked to a guy like Stephon Gilmore. And yes, we signed Charvarius Ward, but I think, screw it, load up, get as many of those guys as you can. Clearly, you had a depth issue, and we always talk about injuries every year with this team. Like, you could go into the season thinking, okay, we're fine at cornerback. I think we even have Jason Verrett potentially coming back this year. And sure, we have Charvarius Ward, Emmanuel Mosley, and then you're hoping Demonor Lenore and Ambry Thomas could be strong next year, but you just can't count on that. It could change with just like someone twists an ankle in preseason, And then we're back to square one. And then we're back to having a giant hole at corner. So I say, if you have a little bit of cap space, go to a guy like Stephon Gilmore, get him. Go to a guy like Julio Jones, get him. You just can't continue to stay stagnant in this division. And maybe it is as simple as we have the Jimmy Garoppolo trade around the corner. That's going to open up space. And then we'll go after like Tyrann Mathieu, or we go after some of these other guys that we really like that are out there. But I just don't get that vibe. In fact, I really get the feel that we are going to run it back with Jimmy. We're just going to go into the season with this roster, and there could be some worse things. I think that's still at minimum a 10-win team going into next year. But you just kind of hate the lack of aggressiveness, and especially when you have these other aggressive teams around you. And I just hope that the Niners don't continue to fall behind. You're just really hoping, obviously, too, you get a couple wins now that Seattle's horrible. You're hoping that this Kyler Murray drama continues in Arizona. You got to obviously win in the division first. And then I don't think you could count on sweeping the Rams every year. So split there, you just have to have a good enough team to compete in the division, win some of these tough AFC West games that we have coming up on our own schedule. You have a game against Tom Brady again this year. The Niners are going to have a tough road to get to the playoffs this year. And they just can't ignore some of the holes on this roster. Got a lot of third round picks, second round picks too, from all these compensatory picks. So that's a plus. That's something that I guess you could kind of look forward to in the Niners offseason plans of how they're kind of like going to rebuild this team. Again, guys like Javon Kinlaw need to step up. Mike McGlinchey, guys like that have to step up. That's going to be a big part of us winning the offseason. I guess if you think about it, those are kind of like free agent moves in themselves, right? It's like you didn't have that guy last year. You get him back this year. How does that change the complexion of your roster? But obviously that's not what fans want to hear. That's the boring thing. That's the boring part of football and team building and what's going on. I just, like I said, I don't like what's gone on so far, but it could change with like a split-second decision where John Lynch is, you know what, we'll just get one of these guys. Again, build depth. It doesn't hurt to build depth. It costs, well, I was going to say it costs $0.0 to pick up a phone, but in the NFL, it could cost you millions. We're the only team that believes the salary cap exists. So that's the thing.
Yeah, from what it seems like teams like the New Orleans Saints apparently at the end of the season were like $7 million over the cap, and all of a sudden they're just signing guys left and right. They're thinking about trading for even they were one of the teams linked to Jimmy Garoppolo, so they're still making moves, and they were supposedly a salary cap disaster. So I'm not, there's always these salary cap gymnastics that teams do to free up some space to make the moves for like a team like the Green Bay Packers, who were supposed to be $40 million over the cap space, but they were still able to pay the highest paying quarterback ever, the contract that he wanted. So the fact that that's happening around the league, but then you don't really see that from John Lynch and this front office and the San Francisco 49ers, it is disheartening. But I will remind everybody that last year's offseason was pretty quiet until we finally traded for that third overall pick.
Okay.
So I am holding up hope for these next couple of weeks to see if maybe John has something up his sleeve.
I'm with you there, right? It does seem like the Niners are a team that consistently goes without leagues, especially in the Shanahan Lynch administration. So maybe there's a ninja move happening. Maybe there's just like Batman appearing and disappearing kind of just around the corner. We didn't expect the Trent Williams move. We didn't expect trading for the third overall. These kind of just happened in a blink of an eye. So you're right. It could just literally just happen like that. I do also consider the possibility of this quiet offseason also being somewhat of a vote of no confidence in Trey Lance. Is that a narrative that you could potentially push out there? Because if the plan is to get rid of Jimmy and go to Trey, and you're not spending money, when we see so many teams like do this with like rookie contracts, then are you secretly saying we still don't think Trey is ready? I mean, there's worse situations you can have than bring back a guy that's been to an NFC Championship game 2 of the last 3 years. I agree with that principle. Not a lot of Niners Twitter does, but I think that that's not an unenviable position to be in, where you could potentially bring him back and yes, if it gets shaky when you start getting into the third year, and if Trey Lance still isn't ready, but even you could franchise tag, you could make some stuff happen if like it really is a full development process. But that's something to consider. Also, throw in there too, Debo and Nick Bosa are eligible to start getting paid too. So we haven't even seen any news on that front either. But anyway, final grade. Let's cap this video here. What's the final grade of week 1 of NFL free agency for the 49ers?
Mine's just a flat D. I think it's below average for me. So a C, if the C is average, it's below average for me. So I would say a D.
I'll give them a C minus. And why I will give them a C minus is only because while they're not flashy signings, they still are signings that address needs in places that we said that they needed to address needs. So average signings that just, they'll get you by. If you went in the off season, or if you went into the season and these are the only guys you signed, at least you said we had a weakness and we feel we addressed that weakness. I just wouldn't give them a B. I wouldn't give them A unless they signed a guy that I think can help them win 1 extra game a year, or potentially 2 to 3 extra games a year. That's where I think are truly the difference makers on giving a grade for this. But anyway, 49ers faithful, let us know in the comments below. What is your grade? What do you think the Niners are doing? Do you like the moves? Do you like some of these guys? Again, McCloud, Hassan Ridgeway, Charvarius Ward, the Ward secondary that we're building there. If you like it, let us know in the comments. Leave a like on this video, helps out the channel. Subscribe. We've had a little bit of a subscriber boon that I'm happy with, but we still want to keep building. We want to hit that 1,000 mark, especially we want to hit that 1K mark before the season. What do you say? Hit that subscribe button. Juju Talk Sports, Jose Corral, again, 49 reasons listen. And these two guys right here are fully part of those reasons why. We will see you next time.